Hi, I'm Jacob Gallucci, and right now I'd like to give my NFL playoff predictions for the 2014 season. And before I do that, I'd like to say that in the regular season, my final overall record for the season was 169, 86, and 1. And the 1 is from the tie game from several weeks ago between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Carolina Panthers. And I'll start with the wild card round for my playoff predictions. For the games on Saturday, January 3rd, I'm taking Carolina to beat Arizona. And even though Carolina only ended up at 7-8-1, they've played well lately. They were free 8. They actually at one point they were free 8-1, and they ended the season winning 4 consecutive games. And Arizona's quarterback situation's a mess. I mean, Carson Palmer's out for the year, and Drew Stanton's hurt, and he might play in this game, but I'm not sure actually. I mean, they have Ryan Lindley right now, and he's not very good, so I think Carolina could beat them. I really do. I'm taking Carolina to beat Arizona in that game. For the AFC game on Saturday, January 3rd, I'm taking Pittsburgh to beat Baltimore. Mainly because the game's in Pittsburgh, and these two teams are big rivals, and they hate each other. They really do, and I think Pittsburgh's going to win the game. For the Sunday games, I'm taking Indianapolis to beat Cincinnati. And the game's in Indianapolis, and Andrew Luck's a much better quarterback than Andy Dalton is. And Dalton, in the playoffs, Dalton's 0-3. And Marvin Lewis, he's the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's 0-5 in playoff games. 0-5. He has not won a playoff game yet. And the Bengals have a history of choking in the playoffs anyway, so the Bengals won't win this game. There's no way. I don't see it. The NFC playoff game, the wild card game on Sunday, is Detroit at Dallas. I'm taking Dallas to win that game. Detroit has a history of choking in the playoffs, and they haven't won a playoff game since 1991, and that game was actually in Dallas. No, I'm sorry, that game was in Detroit. Detroit beat Dallas in that game in 91 in the Pontiac Silverdome, and that's Detroit's one playoff win since 1958. And Detroit has a history of choking in the playoffs anyway, so I'm taking Dallas to beat Detroit. And going back to the Cincinnati-Indianapolis game, Cincinnati hasn't won a playoff game since 1990, since after the 1990 season. They have the longest drought without a playoff win, even longer than Detroit. Cincinnati hasn't won a playoff game since after the 1990 season, and Detroit hasn't won a playoff game since after the 1991 season. I don't see either team winning a playoff game this year. I really don't. For the divisional round, for the Saturday games, I'm taking New England to beat Indianapolis, mainly because the game's in New England. New England's a better team than Indianapolis anyway, so that's why I'm picking them. For the NFC game, I'm taking Carolina. Carolina's at Seattle. I'm taking Seattle to beat Carolina in that game, because the game's in Seattle, and Seattle's really good at home. And Seattle's a much better team than Carolina. For the Sunday games, I'm taking Green Bay over Dallas, mainly because the game's in Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers he's a lot better than Tony Romo is. For the AFC game on Sunday, January 11th, I'm taking Denver over Pittsburgh. Well, because the game's in Denver, and Peyton Manning's better than Ben Roethlisberger. Manning's declining, but he's still better than Roethlisberger. For the championship games, I'm taking it's Green Bay at Seattle. I'm taking Seattle because it's in Seattle, and they played each other in week 1 of this season, and Seattle beat them in Seattle, and I think Seattle's going to beat them again. I really do. They're both very good teams, but since the game's in Seattle, I'm taking the Seahawks. In the AFC Championship game, Denver will be at New England. It'll be Manning versus Brady again. And last year, Denver beat New England in Denver for the AFC Championship game, and this time it'll be in New England, and I'm taking New England to beat Denver. Finally, Super Bowl 49, I'm taking, it's going to be Seattle versus New England, and I'm taking Seattle. Their defense is really good, and they'll dominate Brady in that game. I really think they will. They owned Peyton Manning last year in Super Bowl 48, and I think this year they'll own Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and I really think Seattle's going to repeat, honestly. And anyway, I have 2 more videos to present today. And anyway, stay tuned for those.